Hey everybody, I'm Mila. Welcome to Little Chefs. Today we're going to be making flatbread. For this recipe, you're going to need flour, salt, ground black pepper, baking powder, olive oil, and water. You're also going to need a measuring cup, measuring spoons, a large bowl, a rolling pin, and a cutting board. The first thing you're going to do is mix together your dry ingredients. Now that's the flour, the baking powder, the salt, and the black pepper. We're going to begin with the flour because that's the majority of the dry ingredients. So for this recipe, you're going to need 5 1/4 cups of flour. Now we're gonna make a lot of these flatbreads, so we need a lot of flour. To make sure that you're measuring it correctly, after you're done pouring the flour, always shake the measuring cup so that the flour is level, place it on the counter, and then bend down to check. Next, you're going to need 3 teaspoons of baking powder, which is also a tablespoon. So, some measuring spoons have abbreviations, so just so you know and don't get them mixed up, a teaspoon is TSP and a tablespoon is TBSP. So make sure you're using the right measurement. Now you're going to take 3 teaspoons of salt. You have to be very careful when you're pouring the salt. If it goes a little bit over the measuring spoon, it's okay. Be very careful and make sure that you're pouring the salt very carefully. If a little bit extra comes out, it's fine, but just be careful that you're adding the right amount. Now we're gonna add the black pepper. You can add 1/2 teaspoon. Now we're gonna mix together our dry ingredients. You're going to take 1/3 cup of water. And again, once you're done pouring, bend down and make sure it's on the right line. You're going to pour in the water. And then we're gonna do our oil. So, you're going to need to do 1/3 cup of oil. So you're going to do 3/4 cup of water. And now you're going to mix your ingredients together. Because in this recipe we're using baking powder, we have to be careful that we don't handle it too much or it won't rise properly. If your dough is looking kind of dry, because this is just a little bit on the dry side, you're gonna pour a pinch of water and make sure to be very careful because you don't want to add too much. So if yours is a little bit dry, add a pinch of water. And if it's too wet, add a pinch of flour. Now this is the time that we're going to get very messy. So the next thing I want you to do is make sure that your hands are clean, because if your hands are not clean, there's a chance that you could get people sick with the food that you make, right? So first, make sure your hands are nice and clean. And then you're gonna stick your hands in here and you're gonna knead it just a little bit, because sometimes the fork is just not gonna do it. And when you're working with it with your hands, it's easier for you to tell whether it's too dry or too wet. If it's sticking to your hands, then it's too wet. But if there's like little stray bits like this, then it's too dry. So now you're going to start heating the pan. You should never use a stove without the permission of your parents. So if you need to call an adult or whoever is there watching to come and help you handle the stove, then absolutely do that. So we're going to heat the pan to medium-high heat. While the pan is heating, you're going to start rolling out your dough. You're gonna need a rolling pin. If you don't have a rolling pin, I suppose you could use your hands, but it's best if you use a rolling pin. So you're gonna roll it out forward, all right? Forward and back. When you've stretched it out quite a bit, you're gonna pick it up and turn it sideways. And you're gonna roll it forward and back. You can do this as many times as you need, but you should not be rolling it out completely flat, because we're just rolling it out a little bit so that we can divide them into pieces, okay? Because you don't want to roll it out too thin, we're going to gauge how thick we roll it out to by comparing it to our finger. So you're going to take the tip of your finger, and it should be roughly from your fingertip to the top of your knuckle. There we go. Okay. So next, you're going to take a knife. You can take a butter knife, it's fine. And you're going to divide it up into 5 sections. Okay, next we're gonna cut it horizontally. So we're gonna cut the 2 sections on the side into 2 because they're smaller. And then we're gonna cut the other sections into 3. It's okay if you mess up a couple of the other sections in the process, because you can always divide them. And this is not going to be their final shape. Now you're going to take them and roll them into a ball. It doesn't have to be a perfect ball. And you're going to take the bowl that you mixed them in, and you're gonna place them in there. Very carefully. As thin as possible. So to make it as round as possible, you're gonna roll it out forward into an oval, and then when you've kind of flattened it out a bit and it's longer and looks more like an oval, you're going to continue to roll it up and down to make it more of a circle. When you're done, just flatten out the parts that you feel like might be thicker than the rest, because overall, we want the whole flatbread to be a consistent thickness. By the time you're done rolling out your first flatbread, the pan should be heated. You're just gonna pick it up very gently. You don't want the dough to break or have holes. Don't throw it on there, because if it folds, then the parts that are inside of it, like inside the fold, won't cook as fast as the other parts. You should wait at least 60 seconds before flipping the flatbread. Also, while you're waiting for your flatbreads to cook, what I usually do is I roll out my other flatbreads, but you have to make sure that you don't forget about the flatbread in the pan or it will burn. I hope you had fun with today's Little Chef's recipe, and I also hope to see you again next week where we'll have more fun in the kitchen.